Dozens of people evacuated after a wall of ice moves off the bay and into local homes.
And take a look at that. Strong winds pushed that wall of ice miles inland last night and right up into the front yards of Linwood.
And we have total team coverage of the weather phenomenon with Chris Gloninger, Randy Wimbley, and Brian Wood. And we begin with Brian tonight. Brian.
Well, Katie, I'm standing on one of these huge mounds of ice. They're like mini glaciers, and they're wreaking havoc all along the water line here in Linwood. Today, a backhoe started to remove some of the tons of ice that crashed into Pat and Judy Foss's beachfront home. The family is in Florida, but earlier today, friends worked for hours getting some of the ice out of their home using a wheelbarrow.
When we first pulled up, and that was so high, we thought for sure that the ice would be inside of our house, but it wasn't.
Karen and Randall Schmidt have a cottage right next door to the Fosses, and they're having the same problem. They have a 20-foot high wall of ice leaning right up against their cottage. This is what it looks like from inside. So far, it's not moving. In fact, it hasn't even cracked a window.
It's a disaster, I'm surprised there isn't more damage.
Especially since the ice lifted their two boat hoists right off the beach and onto their yard. I'm standing on what would normally be the beach, but the ice here is about 8 feet deep, and it has a brown tint to it because it's picked up some of the sand from the beach. But this wall of ice has pushed past the seawall right onto the deck. In fact, it is pushed so far, there's about a 25-foot wall of ice that's leaning against this house. And while the Fosses are digging out their home tonight, other home and cottage owners are waiting it out, hoping for Mother Nature to do her job, hopefully melting the ice before it can do any more damage.
You'll just have to wait to see what happens after everything melts and see what's underneath all of this, before you figure out what you're going to do next.
And TV5 Randy Wimbley was here last night, and he's here again today. In fact, he's one glacier over, north, on the beach. And Randy, is today any better or is today worse?
Well, actually, Brian, it is a lot worse. If we take over to our photographer's camera, we want to show you guys something. Over to where these kids are, right to my right, about 5 feet beyond them is where the shoreline is. A couple of days ago, 30 feet in, this was all sand. Now it's completely covered up in ice stretching over the seawall and now into people's homes.
Life's unpredictable, and that, things happen for reasons, and I'm not quite sure why this happened. I like to try to put a positive spin on these things. I mean, we've always wanted new windows.
Now Steve Hughes will be getting new windows and a heck of a lot more after fierce nor'easter winds turned chunks of broken up ice on the bay into towering hills of frozen H2O inching toward his back door, an experience that could be best described as surreal.
It looked like the size of our home coming at us at a very fast, and it was instantly, you're just so frightened that you just run.
And that he and his family did, only to later find their kitchen converted into an ice box. And according to a pair of workers from Surf Pro Restoration, that may be the least of their worries.
The one thing about it is you have all this ice, and then it's going to melt. And then where does that water go? That water is going to go into these houses, into these, if they have basements, or it could wreak havoc in that way, too.
That's very likely at this point. And like I said, thankfully we're insured. And we know at this point that we can only look forward and know that it's going to be cleaned up and it'll be okay.
Now, Steve says this could have been a lot worse for him if that wind would have kept on coming. It would have pushed even more of this ice into his home. So we are live here in Bay County. Back to you guys in the studio.
Wow, that is amazing. You know what, Randy? Tell those kids to get off that ice. They make me nervous.
Well, the kids are going to be kids. They've been out here playing on this stuff pretty much the entire day. If I was their age, in fact, I'm up here now. I was going to say if I was their age, I would be out here too, but I'm 24 and I'm up on this huge piece of ice even now.
Looks like fun, actually. Be careful getting down, Randy.